My name is Chelsea, and today I'll be leading a nonviolent direct action training for Extinction Rebellion, NYC. And in this training, we'll learn what nonviolent direct action is, why XR uses it as a tactic, and pretty much everything you need to know to stay safe while participating in an action, both for yourself and others. Hi everyone, really excited to be here today. Thank you for taking a Saturday afternoon to come learn about nonviolent direct action and Extinction Rebellion. Hopefully something will shift and change just by being in this room together today. Let's learn a little bit more about each other. If it's comfortable, I invite you to all stand, and we're just gonna play a little game called Move In, Move Out. And it goes like this. I'll say a statement, and it'll be like, move in if you're wearing pants today. And so you take a step in if you're wearing pants. I promise I'll ask better questions than that. That's just the example. Move in if you have seen taken part in nonviolent direct action before, of any kind. Action. It could be a rally, it could be a march, it could be, great, awesome, okay, take a step back. Move in if you've ever been arrested before. Great. So, move in if you've ever organized an action before. Great. Move in if you have been concerned about the climate crisis for more than a decade. Move in if you've been concerned about the climate crisis for the last year. If you're sort of, or I guess that could include all of us who have already come in. Okay, great.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. Move in if you have participated in the Women's March. Great. Step in if you have participated in any anti-war movements. Let's move back. Do we have any Vietnam protesters in here? Or any civil rights marchers in here? Great. Look at that. Beautiful. So we have a great range of experience and participation in this room today. Okay, great. All right. Now we're just going to move right along into nonviolent direct action. What are some examples of nonviolent direct action movements that you know of?
Civil rights.
Civil rights. What else?
The suffrage movement.
Suffrage movement.
Act Up.
Act Up.
India's independence movement.
India's independence movement. India's
I think Occupy.
independence. Occupy.
School strikes.
School strikes. So we have a lot of great examples up here. And so why are these effective? Or what were some effective parts of these movements?
The public attention.
Public attention, yeah. So there's something around nonviolent direct action where we're making something that's usually invisible visible and bringing public attention to it. And then polarization. So these two things are sort of indicative of the symbolism of action. It's like what story is being painted in the public eye? How are we polarizing different people in different ways? What else can nonviolent direct action do?
It can stop construction.
It can stop construction. It can actually like stop the thing and be disruptive, right? Another example would be like when XR in the UK shut down 5 bridges. It caused tons of traffic chaos. So you can actually disrupt the ways in which business is going, the way that people are going about their daily lives. And something that XR has been really great about is things are artistic and family friendly, and it's like bringing people into the streets who have never been in the streets before. Anything else? I'm thinking with the civil rights movement, what's coming to mind for me is music. Like there was such a great tradition of singing, really brought people together. So we can see like these different tactics that are part of nonviolent direct action. It's effective because it gets public attention, it helps polarize things, actually disrupts. And also, does anybody know about the 3.5% rule? Yeah, I see a lot of heads moving. Can someone explain the 3.5%? Maybe Margaret?
All that is required is mobilizing 3.5% of a society in a nonviolent movement will actually create the change that that movement sets out to impact.
Yeah. So we don't have to worry about burning ourselves out trying to get climate deniers like convinced of why we're doing what we're doing. We're having a different conversation. We don't need to get 100% of people on the streets. We can certainly have an orientation, an awareness of, and a care for all people, but it's just not even going to be good strategy to try and like mobilize everybody. So 3.5%. So that's sort of the reason that we use NVDA. It's like it actually works. We've seen it be successful all over the world throughout history. And last thing I'll bring up is there's a spectrum of nonviolence that means different things to different people. It's another complexity that we hold in Extinction Rebellion, but we have action agreements that clarify what nonviolence means for XR, including we are nonviolent both in action and in our words. Like we're not going to like show up and just call the mayor bad names or whatever. With Extinction Rebellion, we stay totally nonviolent. So action roles, and let's just popcorn it out because I know a bunch of people here have been in actions before. What different roles are needed in an action? We'll start with arrestees because that'll be arrestees. Not everybody needs to risk arrest, and you'll see in a moment why. There are probably going to be about a dozen roles here. Jail support. Marshals. Media. We'll say media liaison. Oh, sorry. Police liaison. What's that?
Flyering, outreach?
Flyering and outreach, yep. Oh, and usually we often have, in XR, we call them rebel rousers. That's a joke, you guys. And these people sing, they chant, they keep the energy and the spirit up. I'll also put action lead, because that's usually like a specific arrestee to kind of like, and there might be multiple action leads. So we've got arrestees. These are people who are actually risking arrest, doing the, breaking the law to get attention and all of that. Often there's an action lead. The tactical team will have talked about what happens during the action, and sometimes there are multiple things happening. Jail support, does anybody want to say what jail support does? Sarah, have you been jail support before?
I haven't.
Okay. But you've been supported by jail support.
I have been supported, absolutely. That is a role that really just focuses on the arrestees, supporting the arrestees. Before going into an action, they have a list of the people that they're taking care of. And then afterwards, they'll be there for you when you come out of jail with your phone and hugs and probably warm food and lots of support. So their XR jail support is awesome.
Yeah. What does a marshal do? Has anybody here ever been a marshal? Or know what a marshal is? Yeah.
Just like making sure everyone's safe, and if you're doing a march, the route that participants participants aren't going down the wrong way, or we did an action where like they could climb kind of a cliff and to make sure all the kids that were participating didn't go off.
That's important. It's like a kid marshal. Great. Yeah. Yeah. Can't understate how important this role is. It's super important to keep everyone safe. For example, if when we're doing a march and we're rebels, so we don't ask permission, we don't get permits for anything, but at the same time when we do a march and we want it to be inclusive, we'll make sure that what we're doing is legal. So we'll march, but we'll stick to the sidewalks, knowing the route. Sometimes the route changes last minute, and so marshals have to be in contact with each other, in contact with the lead marshal, and they have to react in the moment and like move people in a different way. So media liaison, someone who's a liaison to the media. We often have our own live streamers, our own photographers, and then people who are speaking to the media. So we'll have spokespeople, and there's a lot of organizing that happens before that, sending out press releases and stuff like that. But police liaison, a couple of reasons why this is really helpful to have that person being the police liaison. It helps keep us safe. So the police liaison can communicate to us what the police are telling us, like they're not going to let us go down this road, but they'll let us go down that road. It's also a way to kind of keep the police from giving us too much trouble. I mean, it doesn't always work, but it's nice to sort of get the focus from everyone else to just one person. So sometimes police will come in and be like, who's in charge here? And we're like, we're totally non-hierarchical, nobody's in charge, but you can go talk to that person. So it kind of helps slow things down sometimes and provides a little distraction when we need it. So that's also a really, really crucial role. Sometimes we have a few police liaisons. We got participants, we have outreach, flyering is really important. Sometimes people handing out flyers are also our de-escalators. Because a lot of times people come up, they're heckling us, they're like, what's going on? I need to get somewhere, we're blocking traffic. So people with flyers can help explain the situation to people, which often is a good part of de-escalating. Because most of the time people are just like confused, but once they understand the situation, sometimes they're more agreeable to what's happening. So rebel rousers can be like chant leaders, people keeping the morale up, and then action lead. Okay, good, I think we got everything. So, any questions? Seems pretty clear? Okay, great. So let's stand up and we're gonna catch something. We're gonna do some role playing. First, we're just gonna practice being in a soft block. This is one way of blocking a road. This is not the only option of an active civil disobedience, but it's one we're gonna practice today. So link arms with each other, if that feels comfortable. So you might have to get really close to each other. Great. And then if you can, clasp your hands. So you might have to get even closer. And do what you need to do to feel stable. So you might put one foot in front of the other. Great. So how does it feel to be in this position right now? Just popcorn out. Strong? Weird? Yeah. Could be a little uncomfortable, right? To be supported, though. Feel supported. And supportive. I just heard that.
Could all skip.
Yeah. Okay, so let's practice a little bit. We're just going to practice being adaptive, being flexible, being responsive, and staying connected to each other. So I'm going to, on the count of 3, just yell pivot, and what you're going to do is turn around and link arms again and just face the opposite direction. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, pivot. Great. Adjust yourselves. And pivot. Come back. Good. Simple exercise, but did you see how like you had to kind of be attention to someone who's a foot and a half taller than you or not moving as quickly, you know? These things are really important when your action lead is like, we have to move to another intersection right now. Move. But you got to keep paying attention to each other because someone could get left behind and then they could be snatched up by a police officer. There's so much that can happen in an action, and we try to plan and predict as much as possible, but there's always a risk to all of this. So the more that we can stay attuned to each other and centered and grounded, the safer that will be. So part of this is also why we practice de-escalation, and we'll just sort of practice it very lightly right now, but the reason why it's so important is helping us maintain our nonviolence and not doing anything that will endanger our lives or the life of another in the heat of the moment. So de-escalation is, it's really great when we're being heckled by angry bystanders. To have a de-escalator come up and like kind of calm down the situation, maybe take them away so you can keep your fellow rebels safe. But de-escalation is also part of keeping ourselves calm. If something happens where people are, our people are being aggressive toward the police or bystanders or whatever, that could make a really bad situation for all of us. So it's so important. In the civil rights movement, they practice throwing hot coffee on each other. They practice spitting on each other. And we're not going to do any of that right now, but yeah, surprise. But this is why I can't stress enough. And this is why I'm taking so much time to talk about de-escalation instead of let's just practice another tactic, because this is if you know how to keep yourself calm and to take care of each other in the moment, you're already halfway there to being prepared for action. So body language is really important. So let's just all practice being open. Something that can be really good if someone's yelling at you is to actually show your palms, because that shows I'm vulnerable. I'm not gonna do anything to hurt you. Sarah, what's another de-escalation technique that you've used?
When someone's really angry, I think the best thing you can do is just listen.
Yeah.
Because.
Great. So not arguing back.
Yeah.
Don't try to reason. Sometimes it is helpful to explain things to people. That helps de-escalate. But when it moves into trying to convince someone, so that's where it can just get a little tricky. So just kind of, there's not a science to de-escalation. It's really it's really back to being in relationship to another person. So what happens though, if I'm yelling at you and you're just being silent and neutral, that might make me more angry. So what would you do then? What's another?
Reflect back what the person said.
Reflect back. Yeah, that's great. So I'm so angry. I've got to get through. I'm running late for a very important meeting. This could pay for my kids' college.
So I understand you're really upset because you need to get through. You're costing me time, which is money.
Yeah, you understand me. It happens like that. Not quite, but. Oh, another tactic that you can use is redirecting someone. So rather than continuing to engage them in their anger and why we're here and that kind of back and forth, you can be oh, you're going to be late. Do you need directions? I know a shortcut. Or or where does your daughter go to school? Offering some things that kind of get them out of the direct confrontation. Let's practice it. Let's just see what comes up for you. So you all get to choose your character and figure out why you're upset about what's happening here today and heckle them, and you all see how you practice de-escalation, okay? And then we'll kind of reflect. Okay, ready? Take a moment, get into character, and go. Come on up. Yeah. That's good. Okay, go ahead. I heard a lot of laughter. Yeah. Was there some escalation that happened? We're gonna move it right along actually, and let's keep doing a role play. Let's have you all, you're going to be the soft blockers. And within yourselves, or let's say you're taking part in the action. So you folks need people who are doing the soft block. You need an action lead. So someone who's like, okay, now we're going. You need a police liaison. So then everybody who doesn't already have a role over here, you're gonna be arrestees. And then over here, we need a chant leader. Sessa, can you do a chant for us? Okay, great. And how about 2 de-escalators? What was your name again? Devin, that's right. Devin, and who else wants to be a de-escalator? And Fred. Okay, so come on over here. Let's just do 1 jail support person from over here. Anybody? You want to be jail support? So go over there. Let's have you 2 be media, okay? Like outside media, and then the rest of us will be police, and we'll arrest. Oh, we need 1 good heckler. Greg, you want to be our heckler?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so you all need to get together, and so you've got your action lead. So come up with your plan. Just block a road. Just you're going to do a block. You could do a soft block. You could do a die-in. So maybe decide that. And then jail support before the action goes. You'll pretend to take everyone's phones. Yep. And then police liaison. I'll talk to you in just a moment. Who else did we have? Media liaison. So you'll talk to media. So cool. Do y'all think you can do it? Okay, great.
Morning.
Okay, you ready? All right, the action is starting.
Get up, get down, keep fossil fuels in the ground. Get up, get down, keep fossil fuels in the ground. Get up, get down, keep fossil fuels in the ground.
Did you talk to the police? Okay, so you can tell people, like, listen, the police are going to start arresting you. When the police come over and tap you, you can go ahead and let yourself be arrested, okay? And chant leaders, you might still keep the chant going as people are arrested. Yeah. Right. Awesome. Good job, everyone. Give yourselves a round of applause. How was that? What questions came up? Yeah. First.
Is it okay to resist arrest?
That's a great question, because if you've seen things from XR in the UK, they almost always resist arrest, and they let themselves, they go limp and let themselves be carried away by the police. We have not yet done that here in the US, or at least in New York City, because it is a higher charge to resist arrest. It could definitely be like a tactic or strategy later on, but it just hasn't yet been that. Yeah. Any other questions about action stuff? Okay. So let's sit back down, and we'll just talk a little bit about what you need to know if and when you get arrested. That was kind of like a fun, exuberant exercise, and actions are often fun and very exuberant. But obviously, like, the stakes are higher in an action, and it's so important to, like, really know what you're doing. And don't worry, like, this training isn't, like, exhaustive. Like, if and when you decide I'm going to take part in an action, we'll go through all of the steps, all the things you need to know. You'll know exactly what you're doing, who you're following. You'll get reminded about what you need to bring to jail. Things like that. So don't worry, you don't have to, like, keep all of this in your mind and then just show up for the next action. But at least you have somewhat of, like, a prep for that. So Sarah, was there a question?
What is XR's legal support?
So we have our own legal observers, usually through the National Lawyers Guild, which is like a volunteer organization. Any of like our sort of major actions and any action that you participate in that abides by XR principles will provide legal support as long as you've like stuck to the nonviolence and all of that. So we'll provide that. And same with like we fundraise for legal fees. Like if you can pay for legal fees, we encourage that, but for any folks that can't, we fundraise for that. So if you just did a soft block, you got charged with disorderly conduct, that's a violation, equivalent of a speeding ticket. You have not committed a crime. You don't have to tell anybody that you've committed a crime because you haven't. It might be different if you're a teacher or if you have a specific license. So like if you're a medical professional or something that like your licensure depends on legal standings and things like that, everyone's a little different, so you have to maybe do some of your own research on that. I do know teachers who checked in with their principals and said, listen, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm just gonna commit this violation, and that's been sort of okayed. But that's something to consider if you're a teacher or something. Just so you know, like there's not an expectation that everybody has to get arrested and you're not an XR if you aren't getting arrested. There are probably like 10 people to every person taking action on the street, and whether or not you ever decide to risk arrest, and that's a totally personal choice, we need everybody, we need everybody's skills, all hands on deck to help make these direct actions possible and to help build the community of XR, because that's really what our regenerative culture is about. Like, how are we taking care of each other in this movement and like already embodying the world that we want to see.